And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage, and you're joining us on the podcast today, which is Leveraging Thought Leadership. Today, my guest is Dolores Hirschmann. Dolores has a pretty cool title. She is the Chief Clarity Officer, which I love. She works with speakers, entrepreneurs, authors, and executives to clarify their messages. She works with early and mid-stage growth companies, works with folks on their TEDx work. She's a coach. She's a speaker, digital marketing, and membership expert, and a bunch of other cool things. So let's just dive in. And I think you're the first Chief Clarity Officer I've ever spoken to. So
I
do I
hope
address you
so.
as Your Highness, or how does that work?
I hope so.
Right, right. So who comes to you, and what are they hoping to achieve? Because I
Yeah. Yeah. They come to me because they feel that their potential is stuck behind a very messy message. They are not gaining traction. Whatever they're doing out in the world, speaking, posting, you name it, it feels blah to them, and they feel that when you see all the other people doing exactly the same work you're doing, but gaining momentum and
Mhm.
growing, exponentially. And you say, that's exactly what I do. Why can't I do it? And so
So
there's,
stay there for a minute, because I think that people are always looking for the 5 steps to, or what's the template, or what's the whatever. And I think the reality is it's you know somebody could be doing these 5 things consistently, whatever, and they're killing it, and you do it and it's horrible, right? And there's lots of reasons. It might be who you're trying to reach, how are you trying to reach them, the fuzziness, the noise. And I think what's really important today is attention is the most scarce resource we have, right? It's not necessarily money, it's not energy or whatever. And if you don't grab them by the collars and shake them up really, really quickly, they're just scrolling, man. You're just dealing with like next, 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 next. And it's not so easy to grab their attention without sort of lighting your hair on fire.
exactly. And so in my background, in my training, I'm a coach, I'm a life and executive coach, and I'm a marketer. Part
Mm-hmm.
of it, I went back to school to study coaching because I had lost myself.
Mm-hmm.
And in that process, I realized the need of the coaching skills into marketing. Because why are we not getting people's attention? Because we're talking about our products. We're not talking about our customers. We're not leading
Yep.
with being in their shoes, with what they're feeling, what they're experiencing. You've heard it many times. We have to lead with their pain points. I,
Well, an expert, you're preaching to the choir, because I think sometimes the problem as an expert is they're so deep in their stuff that they need to pause and say, wait a minute, why would anyone care? Like I have clients all the time come to us, well, what are you working on? Leadership book, management book, or whatever. And I'll say to them in a fairly snarky way, the world doesn't need another leadership book. How is your leadership book, or your thinking or whatever, getting people to think about a specific group of people, to think about a specific pain point that they have in a new, better, or different way. And then if they look at you sort of glazed over, you have a problem.
exactly. And so for me, that realization of the need in the market came when I volunteered as a TEDx organizer. And I led
Mm-hmm.
one of the largest TEDx's in the East Coast. Back then, I mean, we all knew TEDx. I didn't know the insights of the process, and I didn't know the competitive side of it as a speaker.
Sure,
And
sure.
so we were getting 400 applications, and we only opened applications for a limited period of time. And we're getting 300 to 400 applications for 16 slots on the stage.
Wow.
And application after application, there was one question we asked consistently, which was, what is your idea worth sharing? And when I got an answer that was 3 paragraphs long, they were disqualified before I read it. Because
Right.
if you can't answer that in one short sentence, and then the next question is like, why do we care? It literally was like, why
Yep.
does the world need
Yep.
your idea right now? We asked that question. And I know 5 paragraphs of answers gone. I wouldn't even read it. So there's a lack of clarity. Lack of clarity will lead to lack of succinctness and straightforwardness, and lack of engagement.
So in my work with clients, tackle the same problem, but I get there in a little bit different way than you do, right? So the way I get there is, we start by working with our clients on developing their strategy, because most authors, thought leaders, speakers, etc., either don't have a cutting edge strategy, or the one they have is antiquated, or they don't have one at all, or it hasn't been updated, or whatever the case is. And so I'll talk to them about our process and the cost and all that stuff. And they say, well, why do I really need that? I'm like, it's really two words: clarity and the ability and prioritization. Right. So at the end of this process, you will have clarity. Once you have clarity, it becomes far easier to prioritize what could I do, what I do, should I do? Because I work, as do you, with really smart people. And I think smart people, most of the time, they're active, they're busy, they're doing stuff, but it's not necessarily the right things in the right sequence to get to the right outcomes. And it's an inefficient use of energy, opportunity cost, etc. So I think you and I are sort of tackling the problem in a little bit different ways. So I love how you're applying coaching skills to marketing. So tell me, play with that a little bit, because I mean, again, coaching, no district, but coaches are a dime a dozen, but coaches that apply coaching skills to marketing, that got me leaning in and going, tell me more.
Yeah. So, I mean, my background since I graduated from university has been business and marketing and
Sure.
communications. That's been my work. Coaching opened up a whole world. It opened up to me everything that's not said with words. And the reason, let me be clear, why did I go and became a certified coach? Because I
Hmm.
was a consultant. I would talk strategy until people were blue in their face. I could make
Hmm.
them do it. They had the strategy, they had the plan, and there was a leadership problem and there's an engagement problem. And so what coaching uncovered for me is a capacity, I call it a superpower, to
Hmm.
read what's not said, to hear what's not, what's not in the conversation. And when you're able to listen to your market, to listen to your
Hmm.
leads, to listen to your clients from that perspective, you can communicate and verbalize what nobody else can.
So I love that, because it's not about an inability to be articulate, and it's not the value prop, it's not the elevator pitch, because we've all heard that stuff.
And we need that anyway, but
Yeah, but those are sort of table stakes. But what is your market telling you, but not in words, is basically what you're saying, right? What are your? I'm always trying to think about, well, what are the things that keep your clients up at night? What are the things that they're worrying about? And they might not have the language, they might not have the courage, they might not have the words to say, what I'm worried about is being dot 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 dot, thrown, being left for idle in a digital transformation or whatever it is. So how do you sort of prod that out? Because I think that part of that is a consulting skill, to be able to prod out, well, tell me what you mean by that, right? We don't want to go down the therapy path, but how do you get the prospects or the clients or the folks you want to serve to tell you what they're actually in pain about?
yeah, so you nailed it. Open, I mean, it's not that complicated, right? But it's listening more than talking, opening open-ended questions, not yes and no questions, and giving them enough guidance for them to come up with answers. For example, it's like, well, I can't, my launch failed. Okay, tell me more.
Mm-hmm.
What part of it failed? Where did you feel that you succeeded? Where do you feel? What were you experiencing throughout? Like literally digging like a coach would on any experience that your
Right.
client is sharing. And so the other thing is when we are communicating, once we are able to capture what's not said, the way we communicate it, we can capture the experience of the client and how they're feeling, and we can be clear as a strategist what they're experiencing. But then when we say it back to them, we actually have to go like reverse engineer it twice. Because we hear what the client says,
Mm-hmm.
we translate it, and then we have to reverse engineer that with what does that mean in the real world? Because
Mm-hmm.
frustration is not a pain point. It is, but it's too broad. Frustration is a pain point, but not getting clients is a real, tangible
Right.
problem.
Frustration is more of a state of mind or a symptom, right? Most of us are not in the business of solving the problem of frustration. So I think sometimes it's going one more question. What is it that you're frustrated
Exactly.
about? Or
What does
even
that
like,
mean?
yeah, or even like you said, the launch failed. Well, that's a binary way of thinking. There's probably elements of the launch that didn't fail. Maybe the copy was great. Maybe this was good. Maybe that, maybe it failed because you didn't get enough clients, or there were, we tend to call an entire thing a failure and think in black and white terms. And it's like, wait a minute, if you were to do it again, would you throw out all of it? Or there's just these three little things you would fiddle with?
Exactly. And that's where we can really assess. For example, I had a client who said the launch failed, and then we broke it down. And it really is like my message was blah. It came down
Right.
to this, there was no sticky point at the beginning of the launch. And those
Sure.
that did come through actually converted. So that her conversion was amazing if she had gotten more stickiness in the front end.
If you're enjoying this episode of Leveraging Thought Leadership, please make sure to subscribe. If you'd like to help spread the word about our podcast, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. We're available on Apple Podcast and on all major listening apps, as well as at thoughtleadershipleverage.com/podcasts. Got it. And as a result of gaining the clarity, so let's look at the other side, right? It's about sort of ideas and impact, right? So you've got the clarity, and most people have a desire to achieve impact. And the impact could be intrinsic, it could be extra, whatever it is, right? There's different ways that different folks measure that. But clarity is sort of the precursor, right? So once you help them get that clarity that they need, does it all just flow into place, or give me some examples?
Yes and no. I mean, we need strategy. So I always talk about clarity, action, impact. Repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Clarity, action, impact. Repeat. And I use a metaphor, the analogy of when we drive at night, 60, 70 miles per hour on the highway,
Sure.
all the clarity we have in the middle of the night, no moon night, is our headlights. And we still are taking action and moving really fast, trusting that the clarity or our car will show us the way for another mile. And I don't know how far
Sure.
the headlights shine. So I always say, clarity without action is useless. Action without clarity is spaghetti to the wall. And impact is a consequence of the combination of clarity and action. So when you
or lack thereof, right?
oh yeah, it's lack thereof, yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you have clarity, you're not going to have clarity for everything that you're questioning in your life, but you have enough clarity to take assertive action versus.
So stay there for a minute, because I think that's a key point. And there are certain types of individual, they tend to be more technical, but et cetera, where there's an insecurity. So it's always, I need more data, need more data, need more data, right? So you're never going to get to a world where you have, whatever the analogy, 2020 perfect clarity, and you can see exactly what needs to be done. So how do you get folks to maybe want too much clarity?
Yeah.
You and I are both sitting here wearing
Analysis
glasses, so we don't
paralysis.
achieve perfect clarity, right? So we need to know we can function in a world with glasses, and maybe it's less than perfect, but it works.
But it works. Yeah, you're talking about analysis paralysis, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the beauty of my work, Peter, because there's a point where you don't need a strategist to give you more clarity. You actually need a coach. And we go into conversation of self-confidence, self-worth, self-doubt. And we go into the coaching experience of learning how to trust yourself. So that's the beauty of.
So let's stay there, because listen, the strategist now says to the coach, I hear that, and it makes a lot of sense to me, because I've had over my years lots and lots of clients, right, where we've killed it on the strategy side. We know with certainty this is a great strategy. And now, all you have to do is execute. Not all you have to do, because it's easier said than done. But there are these emotional excuses. I see people that they will rearrange the spice straw 32 times before doing the first action item that is the clear thing they need to do, and that's outside of my domain. Like at that point, I'm like, you need a coach or a shrinker or whatever, because step one, turn the key in the car and start it. That's how you start a car.
That's where I was before going to coaching school. I was in that room of perfect strategy, no action, or no consistent action. Go back to coaching or go into coaching, learn those skill sets, and now I bring that. So here's what happens. There's such thing as fear of failure, and there's such thing as fear of success.
Yes.
And they are the different side of the same coin. And so you have to go into conversations like, what happens if this works? What will you
stay there a minute. So I'm processing that, because I used to think that fear of failure and fear of success were different. And as I'm thinking through that in my sort of mental Rolodex here, it's interesting. I think I'm buying that, but I'm not sure. So to me, the fear of failure might be imposter syndrome, the fear of success is, oh, now what? Like, so tell me why they're not different at
So
the root.
fear of failure, you say they fear of failure, and so I'm gonna flop, and everybody will see that I'm a fake. Okay,
Okay.
fear of failure, fear of success. So here's the thing: we all have, like right now, I have imposter syndrome. You have imposter syndrome. There's
Hmm.
always that tiny level, and actually, it's a good thing because it keeps us honest. It keeps us like learning and growing.
Otherwise, you get complacent, going, "Oh, geez, I totally
Exactly.
deserve to be here."
Exactly. So there's always a level that we all have, and it's a good thing. But when that is not tackled, or there's no awareness, or there's no self-management of that, think of it. The higher I climb, it's ultimately fear of success is fear of ultimate failure, because it says delayed failure fear. So the more I climb, the more I will fall when I actually
Sure,
fail, because there's something in my belief system,
sure.
for whatever reason, that ultimately I'm not good enough.
So, is it that the way I see it, and I'm not a coach, is I just observe, right? Like, okay, that's really self-sabotaging. The fact that they won't do this or they will
Yeah.
do that or they do these awful things, is the self-sabotaging the symptom or the
The
disease, if
behavior.
you will? It's what?
Self sabotage is the behavior
Hmm.
that enables that. So there's a fear.
Yep.
There's that is so there's a belief system of things about yourself that you believe for whatever reason,
Sure.
which feeds a fear. Like, I believe that I'm not good enough, so I am going to be afraid of certain exposing myself in certain ways.
Sure. Okay.
So in order not so belief, fear, behavior. So let me give you a perfect example. Personal experience a few years ago. I had, I mean, I still have fear of failure, of
Sure.
success, right? The higher you climb. And I hired a team that was really good. I got in their way. I spent a lot of
Of
money.
your own team.
I spent a lot of money with that vendor, and I questioned every step, and I became uncoachable. I'm being honest. And thinking back, and they were great guys, and I would recommend them. We were not successful together
Sure.
because there was something that and maybe there was something on them too, but on my side, I was a little bit in a panic mode because I had this feeling that, oh my God, this is going to work. And now
Right.
what?
Right. Right. So it's the fear which leads to paralysis could be the same whether it's utter failure and this is the imposter syndrome where this isn't going to happen and all of a sudden I'm homeless. And then there's the other side of, oh my God, this is going to work and I'm going to be in
And
Beverly
so
Hills.
for me, I mean, I'm going to be brutally honest. And this is, I've worked on this for many years. It's
Sure.
no longer my belief system. But early on, I am married. I have 4 wonderful children. I said, okay, if this really takes off the way I'm imagining it, will my husband stay? Will I be about mom?
Right.
Will my children turn out okay? Will the
Sure.
demand of that success take me so much time they'll neglect my children, and they'll my success will lead to their failure? You can rationalize all my
Sure.
irrationality if you want. There was no rationalization because at the end of the day, I have a great marriage. We are partners, and we want one gets busy, the other one supports. It's fine. But
Sure.
in my immature entrepreneur mind 10 years ago,
Hmm.
that was my thought process.
That's
And
interesting.
and
And by the way, any of those things may happen and they may be totally unrelated to
or
your
related, I don't know. It doesn't matter. He says you are holding yourself back because of beliefs that you have
Sure.
based on your parents or your childhood
Right.
that may or may not come true. And in that process, you are doing this. You're going, come clients, come. Well, not don't come, don't come.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
come, but don't come, don't come. It's
Like
just this
do the
this
marketing to get the phone to ring and then don't answer the phone. Right, right.
exactly.
Yeah,
And but that happens all the time. How many
yeah.
I have clients who say, well, yeah, I have 3 people who request my services, but I was too tired yesterday to answer, and today I'm too busy, I'll answer tomorrow. Yeah, well, then your marketing is working, your conversion is not because you're
Yeah,
not answering the phone.
exactly. Well, this has been great, and I love this sort of it's a little bit of a different area for us to be exploring, but this intersection of or the boundaries between strategy and coaching, and it's not binary, and that the strategy gives you clarity, and coaching gives you clarity with respect to execution and implementation. And my conclusion is you need both, but I might be biased. So.
Yeah, so here's the thing. In order to grow the business you want to grow, you need to become the person that business needs to.
Mm-hmm.
And so entrepreneurship, well, any experience that you really push yourself beyond your comfort zone, it's a journey of personal development. So when you can walk that journey with the right strategy and someone that is holding your personal development space, now you will be ready for that success. Like, think about the people who win the lottery and it's gone within years because
that's pretty common when you look at the research. They get back to the baseline of
because they have a default behavior,
right,
and they have a belief of poverty or of lack, whatever you call it, of scarcity, and so they can't handle the abundance. Who they are is not an abundant personality,
right?
And so they need to make that true again.
Well, this has been great. I appreciate your time and I appreciate your insights. We could go for hours here. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Dolores.
Thank you, Peter, for having me.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.